Go to your room, Paul.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're discussing the topic, has worship gotten more self-centered over the years? So welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? Just chilling here on the couch with all these people, and they're they're actually all YouTubers. So we're doing a huge YouTubers collab.
I already knew that.
Yeah, you probably know that already.
Brain's like, they already know who I am. They saw me on adventures.
I'm just gonna quickly have them introduce themselves and their channel, and I'll also link all their channels down below so you guys can go check those out. So if you guys just want to go around.
Hey guys, my name is Michael Span, and in case you're wondering, my channel is called Michael Span. So.
My name is Justin, and that's my wife,
Emily,
and we run a channel called That Christian Vlogger.
And my name's Paul, my wife is Morgan, and we are the Paul and Morgan Paul and Morgan Show.
That was terrible. I'm Savannah, and this is my husband, Braden, and I have a channel called Savannah Louie that Braden is often a part of, so, yeah.
And I am Furlan, and my channel is called Furlan is the Man.
He is the man.
Alright, so we're discussing a controversial topic, like usual. Has worship music gotten more self-centered over the years? Because we used to have hymns, and now like worship music has really like transformed into what it is today. We have all these worship bands like Upper Room, Hillsong, Elevation. So I just kind of want to have like a little sit-down conversation and have everybody share their opinions and whether they think that the lyrics in worship music have gotten more self-centered over the years.
I had a friend at work who was telling me about this worship song that they really like, and I take a very different approach to when I hear music. If I hear something that like I don't necessarily agree with, it doesn't like necessarily make me upset or I don't get like hurt about it. I just think, well, that's how they're trying to honor God through their best understanding. So I try and cover it with grace if there's something I'm like, I don't necessarily know if that's really what we're here for. But this guy at work was like sharing with me one of the songs that he loves right now, and he's liked this song for a while, and for like the last maybe 6 months he's been in this area in his life where it's all about pain, and like all of the things in his life are just like, oh, you know, my life's so terrible, but God's just barely helping me get through. And he starts telling me the song that he's singing. I was like, well, I don't know, man. What do you? And he was telling me the song, and it's like all about I don't. God knows your pain, and it was like it was just really it was giving them permission to stay kind of in that area. And I said to him, I was like, well, you know, God's never empowered me to stay in that. And it's like if I have an area in my life that I'm taking to Him, He usually gives me he teaches me how to like overcome that. And I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't sing that. So
Wow.
I guess that was just something like it is a declaration at the end of it, you know, and when you sing it like that, your heart's somewhat in coming agreement with it. So I guess that would be my approach. But if you do hear something, don't let it defile you. Just like cover it with grace.
So I'll push back on that, Brandon, a little bit.
Oh, dude, what?
Yeah, so like worship music covers a variety of emotions and experiences. The only book in the Bible that is literally the hymn book is the book of Psalms. And if you go through the book of Psalms, how many of the Psalms are about the times that David was low and how many of them are about the times that he was triumphant? I think there's a healthy blend between all of them. And so I wouldn't say that every single worship song has to be about like, what God is doing that's great and amazing, because that's not the only experience that we have as Christians. There are moments where we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. There are moments when we're discouraged and we feel sad. And what I would say, and I know that you don't disagree with this point, but that God is accessible in all of those ranges and all those emotions. Mm-hmm. And so I actually do appreciate that there are songs that are a little bit more of a somber tone, that are a little bit more contemplative and serious. Not so much, oh, everything has to be great and I deny the existence of pain in my life.
I think in this specific instance, he's kind of been in this area for like a while, and so that's why I was a little bit more direct with it. Like you can only live in something for so long before like you need to like, okay, like I agree, like you know, if you hear something that kind of like strikes you, like you are going through something and you hear a song like that, like maybe in that moment you're like, oh yeah, like, but then go to Him. Like, don't stay in that area for 6 months and let that be like your life's message now.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, because Psalms is like whiny David the whole time.
Whiny David.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I love Psalms. That was a joke.
You know, when I think of worship, I think of, looking to Jesus. If we're worshiping, it says, you'll worship the Lord in spirit and in truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so worshiping can look differently for each person. And I think kind of the thing that Hannah said with the title is, I do like when you talked about, Braden, about things being filled with grace, like being gracious to other people where they're at, because at times people they connect with God where they're at, and God is so kind that He actually connects with us even in the places we're at, even in our mess, So to me, when someone's worshiping, if they're engaging with the Lord the best they know how, the best that they've received from the Lord, that's the most important thing. But I think there has been, a culture right now that's been more focused upon the emotional side of how I feel, rather than, look, God transcends our emotions, right? Like, and again, there's grace for that, but I do think there's wisdom and to going a little more in depth. And I think there's a maturity that, look, even though I'm feeling this way and I can articulate that in this song, in this worship song, this is who God is. As you're saying, this is who God is in the midst of my circumstance. Because even David, like, he would rend his heart, but then there was always that declaration is, here's who God is in the midst of his pain and suffering, in the midst of kind of being introspective on how he was feeling. There was a declaration of, this is who God is, and I believe this is who God is. So,
Right on.
Yeah. I think sometimes it seems like with worship, Christians can get into this, I've definitely been there before in the past, but like, you're not spending any time with God throughout the week, and then you get to church, and you're like, alright, I'm going to come to God with all of my needs, and, like, all these things that you need, that you're, like, asking God for, and, like, I don't know. So I think a lot of worship songs can kind of get that way, too, but I feel like, I would just encourage you, like, we need intimacy with God every single day, and, like, church does not take the place of intimacy with God. And then, like, I personally, usually like to just, like, worship God for, like, who He is, like Michael was saying, just, like, the truths, and things like that. But, like, if I do need something from God, like, I'll just, like, go to Him in the secret place, and, like, the Bible says just ask God for it, and He will, give you all the things that you need. So, like, you can ask Him for that, but then, like, every time I worship, it doesn't have to be, like, I'm just like, God, please give me this thing. Yeah, it's like, God, thank you for who you are, and, like, actually worshiping Him, not just, like, asking for things. Not that it's bad to, because the Bible says to, and there's always time for that. But
I think it's really easy when you come into a time of worship that you forget that worship was, in my opinion, created to praise God instead of just be whiny and beg God for all the things that you need.
Whiny, wow.
No offense, but don't get me wrong, I'm all for, falling down on my knees and just crying out in worship and just, like, letting my heart just cry out, letting my spirit just cry out for the, my needs, for the things that I need from God. But I kind of want to take it into a different direction and see what... When it comes to, like, the Bible times and the things that you read in the Word and just how people were worshiping back then, it's like literally some of the and you guys can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but some of the apostles were worshiping so hard that people thought that they were drunk and crazy. But they didn't care because they were not worshiping for to appease people around them. They were worshiping only for God. It was just them and God. And for me, I'm a worship leader, and so it's so easy to get into the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna go lead a bunch of people, and so I've got to be, like, super focused on the audience and make sure that they're, following me and that I'm doing really good, and if I mess up, oh no. But that's not what leading worship is about, in my opinion. I think that, for me, when I lead worship, I get up there and I just go into, like,
a space in my head where it's just me and God, and the people who are watching me or whatever, they can follow me along, follow the songs that I'm singing along, or they can go into their own space and do their own thing, you know. I'm just in charge of creating the atmosphere of a time for people to spend time with God. And I think that worship has become so self-centered because a lot of worship leaders are stuck in this mindset of, oh, the show's about me. This is a show. I'm putting on a performance. I'm, you know, getting up there to show all my talents and gifts off, when that's not what you are called to do as a leader.
Yeah.
What would you say to a worship leader who was extremely gifted and talented? So maybe it would look like every time they got up there, it was the, you know, about them. Just a random question, but
Yeah.
like if they were literally like American Idol winner talented.
Yeah. Well, I think that there are incredibly talented worship leaders. I think everyone in Upper Room is amazingly talented. I watch some videos on YouTube of like Tasha Cobbs, the gospel singer, lead worship. People get ready! Yeah, and she's going crazy. But I can see it, and I feel like there's a difference. Like, you can tell...
She's got the chips.
You can tell if a leader is I can tell anyways, if a leader is leading to bring attention to themselves, or if they're just truly in their own place in the worship, in the throne room with God, and they're just giving their gifts and talents back up to God.
That's good.
I used to approach worship is a way I communicate with God. It's like a big thing. Like I play piano at the church I go to, and I help with worship leading. But I used to approach it like, man, if I'm not standing up and raising my hands, am I really worshiping God? And then there can be a judgmental atmosphere that comes along with that. And recently I've just been like, who cares? Let the Spirit just overwhelm the people that are worshiping with God and let them do what they need, that they are feeling called to do. So it's really freeing when you're in that space and not just like, oh, should I be doing this or should I be standing up? And they didn't tell us to stand up and stuff like that, because the church I grew up in, it was very reserved, so people didn't do that as much. So it's just so freeing when you're worshiping in spirit and truth to actually express it in the way the Spirit's leading you to express it.
And I feel like worship it's supposed to be removing yourself out of the picture and just putting your focus entirely on the Lord and just worshiping Him, and not focusing on yourself or what you want from God or just things that you're going through at the moment, and just putting everything behind you and just surrendering. It's an act of surrender to our Creator. And I think that if you look at worship music in the past, even though I like the style more nowadays than back then, the lyrics back then were more meaty. They had more, it was more about God and who He is, and about God and worshiping Him, and not about ourselves or our journey. Because if you look at the worship music nowadays, it's more about, oh, your journey, and I'm going through this, and this is what's happening now, and it's taking the focus off of God and putting it on ourselves. Because when I go into even a church service and it's time for worship, it's not time to focus on myself, it's time to worship God and just surrender and remove my flesh out of the way. Yeah,
when God really met me in the area of worship, I was kind of in Emily's boat. I was wanting to worship God with my whole heart, but I would be in a worship service and just feeling all this there's people around me holding up their hands, okay, maybe if I hold up my hands, but really self-conscious. And God really broke through and showed me, Paul, I am so worthy of your worship. And when He spoke that to me, it released me, and I was able to start moving into a place of just worshiping God with my whole heart because of who He is and how worthy He is. He is worthy of our praise. He's magnificent. So it really was for that change to take place in my heart, just recognizing and just a revelation of the worthiness of God. So I do think at least the majority of our worship, that should be at the forefront. And that's my opinion.
Can you worship like that to something that's not talking about that? I'm asking. What do you think?
It's talking more about
if the lyrics are more self-centered and stuff.
Sometimes I don't sing it.
Is it possible
if I don't
for
agree
us
with
to
it,
still
I
worship
sing
God
yeah,
through that?
I think so. I don't know. Do you?
I think that it's possible.
Yeah, just you could just be quiet.
That's what it comes down to on the person viewing. Carrying an attitude of like, you worship God. And if it is, the lyrics are a little bit off, or they're maybe like we're saying.
Don't be critical.
You don't. If you start getting critical and like all like judgy,
then
stuff,
it's gonna be about you.
now it's all about you.
That's true. That's good.
And so,
good point.
And so, I guess like, cause none of us really have like huge music, you know what I mean, where we're like the ones writing the songs, but at least on our end, if we're listening to something where we're like, yeah, maybe that's not, we can definitely control the way we still worship him through it.
Yeah. You know, I used to make that mistake that you're saying back in the days when I was like first becoming a Christian. I kind of came in under some really radical, like narrow-minded views about worship and music, and to the extent where if there was a music style or song that I didn't agree with, like I would get up and leave, and my spirit would be troubled for like the whole rest of the service. Yeah, 100%. I really did, and it was just. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought it was standing for righteousness or truth or whatever it was. But what it truly did is it actually allowed people to get in between me and God. Right. And so I think that when we start like pointing the finger at other people and, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, like we do a huge disservice to God himself, because it's not about me, it's not even about the worshipers, it's not about the music, it's about God. And anything that subtracts from that is doing God a disservice.
Yeah. I think if you are in a church service and there is music that is more about your journey and like where you are, it doesn't mean you shouldn't still worship. I'm still going to worship no matter what church service I'm in during the worship time. So just like they were saying, like don't let it be so self-centered, even with just like paying attention so much and being super critical towards the worship music that you can't even focus on worshiping God.
It seemed to me, Hannah, too, you were talking a lot about like those who are producing the music, those if you're thinking about pursuing a career in worship, to at least consider that, how some of the lyrics, some of the content has become more focused on self.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we're kind of talking about
a couple different things.
Yeah, a couple different things, you know. But I think it's good to touch on those. So just to.
Yeah, for sure.
I absolutely think that worship has gotten more self-centered. In my experience, like growing up, you hear songs like. God's going to help you overcome your enemies, but they're not talking about your spiritual enemies, but your coworker or your neighbor or something like that. Or that, you know, your blessing is on its way, or, you know, just all these things that are focused on you receiving something from God. Or, it's just focusing on yourself, but I think worship should be focused on the Lord. I'm not saying the Lord won't bless you or help you to overcome, you know, a bunch of different things, but I just think it's all about me. A lot of music, I think, is about that. And I will say, I have struggled, like, you know, going to different churches and during worship time, hearing certain songs, and I get critical, and I'm totally disengaged at that moment, and totally guilty of that. And I don't feel guilty about it, I guess. But but it's like I just sometimes I think you know, you feel a certain way because it's how you should feel. But I'm probably not really sensitive in my heart to that yet. But yeah, no, worship should be focused on the Lord, though. Right on.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and comment down below. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think worship's self-centered? Do you think it's gotten more self-centered over the years? Or do you not agree with us at all? Let me know down below in the comment section. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Just subscribe to my channel. And, okay, let's do the outro. God bless you guys. Keep looking to Jesus. Remember that everything's going to be all good, and peace out.
Every little thing, everything will be alright.
I'll do this when it's
Sorry, so what was it again?
Okay, let's just try it. We did it on the first try.
Yeah, we did it on the first try.
Yeah, we did.
No pressure.
Well, girls are really good listeners.
Whoa! Okay. Sorry, what did you say?
God bless you guys. Keep looking to Jesus. Remember that
everything she said is now true.
This is show business.
Just keep looking up. Okay, let's do it again. Yep.
Lauren Daigle. Oh my god.
Kidding.
Go to your room, Paul.